Let's find out from him. Democratic State Senator Jason Carter joins me now. Senator Carter, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
So we know the obvious benefits of having sort of this political dynasty that you're a part of, and potentially you and Michelle Nunn leading this ticket in November, and the potential positives that come with that. What's the negative? What's the burden? What's been the hard part of it?
Well, I mean, you know, I love my grandfather, and I think that the real issues that we confront as a state are about the future of our state. So I think one of the things we've been focused on is what, you know, the fact that we've lost 9,000 high school teachers in K-12 education, the fact that we're constricting school days in our state. I mean, the issues that are holding our economy back and our ability to talk about the future, that's going to be the key to the election. And so the discussions of the legacy, it's important to me. I'm proud of it. But we really need to stay focused on the future.
What is Nathan Deal's fireable offense?
Well, I think that what they've done to the education system in our state is just unbelievable. As I said, we have 9,000 fewer classroom teachers. We've had, since the governor took office, almost 2/3 of our school districts have taken away school days. We have 45,000 fewer technical college students. That's not how you build a bright future. And the fireable offense to me is that there is no vision for what the future of Georgia looks like. And we all know what happens when there's no vision. It's something that's fundamental. We are focused on the future, and the governor is trading in tomorrow for today.
Well, you're talking about education, so where are you on Common Core?
I think it's important for us to have, you know, reliable information and reliable diagnostics for our schools, but we in Georgia have changed our policies left and right so many times over the years that we've got students who are learning with different sets of graduation standards over and over again throughout their time in school, and it's very hard for teachers or parents to keep up. But I think that Common Core makes sense in a lot of ways, and the political circus that has descended upon it has done a disservice to the facts.
I want to talk to you about health care. If you're governor, are you going to push to take the Medicaid expansion money?
Look, right now we send $9 million a day of our tax dollars from Georgia out to other states, and I don't think that makes sense for anybody. That's $9 million a day that could go to make our people healthier. It could generate jobs. It could save rural hospitals that are being closed in South Georgia. So I think we have to find ways to solve those problems, and creative solutions to use that money is one of those ways.
Your campaign was invoked in a New York Times weekend piece about Democrats not they could run on health care. It was Jonathan Martin's piece in the New York Times, and it essentially said that your campaign and Michelle Nunn's campaign were not running on health care. You didn't see it as a way to win votes. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think our campaign in Georgia today, it's not about Washington politics. It's about how we solve the problems that we face as Georgians. And right now, with respect to health care, we've got rural hospitals that are closing throughout Georgia. And when that happens, it's a devastating blow to those communities. And right now, our state is not looking for answers because the governor doesn't have a true vision for what types of solutions we need on health care. So we'll talk about health care, but we also have to focus on our education system, which is being bled dry, our economy, which is failing the middle class, and getting an honest government that works for everyone. So that's where our focus is going to be.
Now, later this week, your potential Republican opponent, Nathan Deal, is going to be signing a new sweeping gun rights bill, not really a gun control bill, a gun rights bill, which you voted for in the state Senate. Now, this bill would allow Georgians to legally carry firearms, including in schools, bars, churches, and government buildings. Why did you support it?
Well, I think the Second Amendment is important to many people in Georgia. And I know a lot of national Democrats and others have been upset or angry about this, and I've heard from a lot of them. But again, you know, we worked across the aisle to try to make the bill better than it was when it first started. I think we succeeded in that. But ultimately, you're talking about people who have a license to carry in a state where the Second Amendment is incredibly important.
Do you think that teachers should be armed in schools? Do you think that would help with dealing with a potential mass school shooter?
Look, I think what we've done is we've allowed communities to make those decisions for themselves. I mean, there's not an issue that I know of that's more geographically polarizing than guns. And there are some communities in my state that will feel safe if their school districts are allowed to make those decisions, and there's other communities where they won't. And those communities will get to decide for themselves.
Why do you think it's been so hard for Democrats in the Old South to succeed. You look at sort of Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, been part of the New South. Georgia, sort of, you could argue, is a part of the Old South, part of the New South. What do you think's been the biggest? What do you think your biggest impediment is to convince the average swing voter in Georgia who just doesn't feel comfortable with the National Democratic Party?
I mean, I think, again, there's been a focus on national issues. On some level, it used to be that all politics was local. And lately, Democrats and Republicans have both focused so much on national issues that it really has left out a lot of folks in Georgia. But what we have today in our state is a true opportunity for Democrats to reclaim the mantle of being pro-education, being problem solvers first and politicians second. And I think that's what we're going to do. We'll talk about the middle class in ways that we may have lost track of. But I think that truly today we have that opportunity to sell, again, a message that says we can get Georgia working again in the ways that it was. And Georgia was always at its best when it put Washington politics second and focused on what was happening in our home state.
Well, speaking of that polarization, the Georgia Department of Revenue just agreed to allow the Sons of Confederacy to have their own license plate, that the state is going to allow folks to carry on their cars. It's going to have the Confederate flag on it in a more prominent way than even a previous plate. Do you, if you're governor, do you make it so that you can't do that anymore? That a group like the Sons of Confederacy wouldn't be allowed to use the Confederate flag, which is offensive to so many, particularly African Americans in Georgia, that they wouldn't be allowed to put that on a state-issued tag?
Look, I think that these issues that, again, folks on the level want to talk about a lot are the kinds of things that Georgia needs to put behind us. I mean, do people have the right to put on their car what they want? Of course they have that right. But what I would like to see when I'm governor is a license plate that celebrates Georgia's legacy as the cradle of the civil rights movement.
People can put that on their car.
That future that, go ahead.
It's not a bumper. We're not talking about a bumper sticker. We're talking about a state-issued license plate, though. State tax
but I don't know that the state can discriminate on the basis of what they say. I mean, you know, again, I would like to see us focus on that great legacy that we have of Dr. King and Joseph Lowry and Andy Young and the future of our state, which is undeniably a multiracial, multicultural, diverse, dynamic future. And that's where I'm going to focus. And to the extent that folks are making this a political issue to divide people, I don't support it.
Well, so you wouldn't block it, though? If you were governor,
I don't know that we could block it, frankly. But I mean, I think people, again, they have a right to do that. You're not going to see very many of these license plates. I mean, this is something for national folks to talk about. In Georgia, we're moving on, and we're really pressing towards the future.
Very quickly, you invoked Andy Young. I was down at the LBJ library about 10 days ago, and he was pushing as a way to sort of get past the voting, this whole voting rights debate that's been taking place between the two parties. And he wants to put photographs on Social Security cards and have those be usable for as voter ID for these states that want to move to voter ID laws. What do you think of that proposal?
I mean, I think that there's been so much voter suppression efforts that we need to deal with, and I'm always going to be on the side of expanding voting rights. What the best way is to get a photo ID into people's hands is up for debate. But now in Georgia, we require a photo ID for voting, and that means that there's many ways we can expand the right to vote. I think we can allow people to register on the same day. We know we're not going to have voter fraud if folks have a photo ID, so we need to focus, in my view, on how more people engaged, more people excited, and moving forward again.
All right, Jason Carter, I'm going to leave it there. State Senator, of course, and the likely Democratic nominee for governor. The primary, I think we're less than a month out. So you got to get back in the campaign trail.
I'm unopposed. Thank you so much.
You got it. Stay safe.